But in today's episode, I want to bring you clarity around what each of these mainstream diet trends are, the pros and cons of each, and what the Bible has to say so that you can walk away feeling informed with a true understanding instead of Googling a bunch of questions and hearing both radical success stories and absolute horror stories.
Do you struggle to stay consistent with healthy eating and just want food decisions to be easy, guilt-free, and sustainable? You're in the right place. Hi, I'm Chelsea, nutritionist and fitness coach who overcame restrictive yo-yo dieting and body image insecurities using simple nutrition tools, all backed by biblical principles. And now I help women like you find that same freedom with food so you can feel confident in the look and health of your body for decades to come. I'm ready to dive in with you. So grab that cute notebook you've been hanging on to and let's go.
Time is running out and spaces are dwindling, but there is still a chance for you to book your diet-free nutrition coaching call with me. You can get my direct support on all your food-related challenges. My goal is to give you all the tools and the exact next steps plan you need to keep you consistent with healthy eating. Because we both know that consistency is key to achieving your bigger health goals. All you have to do is visit coachrain.com/dietfree and book your coaching call. That's really it. I'll do the rest. Again, it's coachrain.com/dietfree. I am so excited to support you. Carnivore versus keto versus paleo versus vegan. What the heck is actually healthy? You know, just about every woman who comes to me for nutrition coaching has tried at least one of these diets, if not all of them. And the overwhelming response to their experience with them is, it worked for a while, I definitely lost weight, but it just wasn't sustainable. Which makes total sense to me, and I'll explain why in a moment. But in today's episode, I want to bring you clarity around what each of these mainstream diet trends are, the pros and cons of each, and what the Bible has to say so that you can walk away feeling informed with a true understanding instead of Googling a bunch of questions and hearing both radical success stories and absolute horror stories. The first thing I want to say is that the main component all of these diets have in common is that they eliminate an entire food group. Now, in the Bible, I've spoken about this before, but initially, God made all seed-bearing plants for our food. That reference is in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. And then, after the flood, he added animals, grains, and vegetables to the list of things we can eat. That is found in Genesis chapter 9, verses 2 and 3. And then, when he was giving Moses the Old Testament law, God removed some specific animals from the list of things we can eat for some health and safety reasons. And that is outlined in all of Leviticus chapter 11. So we've got seed-bearing plants, aka fruit, grains, vegetables, and most animals. These are all things God created and said was for our food. As far as I can tell, that pretty much covers the bases of everything. And that means when a diet eliminates an entire food group, it is automatically a red flag for me. We are omnivores by design. The only time we should ever consider eliminating an entire food group is if we're dealing with an allergy, an intolerance, or a metabolic dysfunction of some kind. All that being said, let's take a closer look at each of these diet methodologies. Starting with the carnivore diet. This is the one where you only eat animal products. So we're thinking meat, milk, cream, butter, eggs. If it came from an animal, it's fair game with the carnivore diet. Some people have a lot of success with carnivore because quality raised animals are exceptionally nutritious. And depending on the nature of your gut microbiome, it can actually be easier to digest for some folks than fibrous plants. The carnivore diet is also fantastic at keeping you full and satisfied because it is very high in protein and fat, which are the two slowest macronutrients to digest. Actually, most people I know who follow the carnivore diet really only eat once per day and are fully satisfied. And when you think about it from a nutritional lens, eating animal products gives you a complete spectrum of vitamins and minerals because we eat what the animals ate. So if you are having an animal grazing on wild grasses and forage, all of the phytonutrients, the vitamins and minerals from those plants that a lot of times we cannot digest, like we can't eat grass, those animals do that process for us. And then it becomes very densely packed into their muscle fibers. So essentially, just to make a visualization out of it, a steak is a very concentrated bite of all of the vitamins and minerals that come from like 10 pounds of greens. Like I said, it's very nutrient dense. I will say though, in my observation, men and those with autoimmune disorders in particular tend to do the best with a carnivorous diet. One of the arguments for it also includes the amount of pesticides used on fruits and vegetables in our mass farming culture, which is a major cause for concern, and those chemicals are really quite harmful. So to only eat animal products, ideally animals that are raised in a regenerative, sustainable, healthful way, helps us avoid all of those added chemicals to crops. Then there is the keto diet. This is similar to carnivore, but the focus is a bit different. Keto is short for ketogenic or ketosis. I want to explain what that means in the simplest terms possible. Basically, our bodies have two energy systems to burn fuel from. The first and default system burns sugars and carbohydrates. These are the preferred energy sources because they burn quite easily and quickly. That's why you'll see like marathon runners with gel packs or elite athletes chowing on candy or fruit. It's quick burning energy. It spikes our blood sugar so we can go do something athletic. But when we run out of sugar to burn, God, in his intelligent design of the human body, made a backup system. So, our major organs, like our heart, can keep pumping and our lungs can keep breathing. And this system runs on ketones. The keto diet is eating in such a way that purposefully depletes our body of carbs so that we create ketones and start operating in a state of ketosis, which burns fat as fuel. Now, I want to be clear here. It's not necessarily body fat that we're burning. We can't just go into ketosis and say, all right, body, today I would like to burn the fat around my belly. It doesn't work that way. Think of it more on the molecular level. We're burning fatty acids instead of carbohydrates. So this diet requires eating really high fat foods and then keeping carbs to an absolute minimum in order to maintain ketosis. This is a really good plan for people who are type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic because it can help increase insulin sensitivity over time. What I have found, again, observationally, is that women tend to not do very well in ketosis for long periods of time. And I believe that is likely associated with the monthly menstrual cycle and that women tend to need more carbs during different seasons. I mean, the stereotype of women craving fruit during pregnancy exists for a reason. And personally, I also think that stems from the hunter-gatherer eras where men were gone hunting while women did much of the crop gathering, which is mainly carbohydrates. Now, the paleo diet is one that I actually followed myself for a couple of years quite religiously. The main idea with paleo I can mostly get on board with, and it's to eliminate processed foods, essentially emulating the primal human days of eating. So things like grains, sugar, legumes, and dairy are all off limits on the paleo diet. For the most part, I still eat a predominantly paleo diet because I like the quality check of ingredients. I am all about eliminating highly processed foods from the diet. In fact, I don't even call them foods, I call them products. However, two things I don't fully support about paleo. Number one, I think paleo desserts completely defeat the purpose. If you're making cupcakes using almond flour instead of wheat flour to make it paleo friendly, you're still making cupcakes. And I assure you, cavemen were not making cupcakes. Secondly, grains are off limits. But I believe some grains have great nutritional value. Grains make bread, and Jesus ate bread. In fact, Jesus refers to himself as the bread of life. If God did not want us eating bread, I am sure Jesus would have picked a different word to use in that metaphor. But he didn't. He used bread. So I have a hard time accepting that as off limits. I do believe that quantity plays a role in how beneficial it actually is. And I know that we humans have a way of modifying the original form of God's creation and usually making it no longer of nutritional value. I mean, the loaf of bread that you find in a grocery store hardly resembles the bread that Jesus ate. So having discernment in ingredient quality is an important factor. That goes for dairy as well, which is also cited in the Bible in positive regard. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 8, God said to Moses, "So I have come down to rescue the Israelites from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey." Milk and honey in the Bible represent prosperity. And God used those words specifically to illustrate the prosperity of the Promised Land. All of that's to say, while I believe the overall direction of paleo is healthful, there are details I would amend to make it more in alignment with what the Bible says. And that brings me to the vegan diet. Veganism is virtually the opposite of carnivore. It is only eating plants, no animal products. Not even honey, which was just mentioned in the verse before. The stance on this is usually in response to the wildly inhumane practices that we have seen across the Western world with farming animals and not wanting to support those practices, which I totally agree with. Animals have the right to a healthful life, and I do not want to financially support what really is considered abuse in many cases. What I have found in my nutrition coaching is that those who follow a vegan diet quickly become rather depleted of important nutrients. Contrary to popular belief, animals, particularly red meat, are actually substantially more nutrient dense than vegetables. It is pretty difficult to eat a fully vegan diet long term and thrive physically without a hefty supplementation routine. I have seen women struggle with fertility after following a vegan diet, increased irritability, hair loss and thinning. I mean, a lot of classic signs of malnourishment. And what's really concerning is the amount of chemicals in plant-based products that are designed to emulate animal products. I mean, if you look at plant-based burgers or chicken, for example, it is a lengthy list of really long words that make up the ingredients. So while I do totally believe that animals should be raised with humane practices and live a long, happy life, I also think that the health sacrifices made to avoid eating the super nutritious foods animals make are significant. I hope that brings clarity to what each of these diets are designed for, but I want to emphasize again, from a biblical perspective, we are not made to abstain from eating entire food groups, at least not long term. So when I hear that these diets are not sustainable, my immediate thought is, of course not, because that's not how God designed us. There absolutely can be short-term benefits, but it's never meant to be a forever plan. Cutting an entire food group will almost certainly lead to weight loss. So for most people, that means it's a good thing. That's the goal. But unless it is sustainable, that weight loss will not last. What I teach my nutrition clients in the Sustainable Way, my nutrition coaching program, is what I've trademarked as the diamond meal, which is really just a simple template that you can use to make the perfect, well-rounded meal, whether you're at home, at a restaurant, at a party, wherever, to ensure maximum nutrients with minimal brain power. Variety is key, along with quality, and the Diamond Meal accomplishes both. If you want to explore the Diamond Meal some more and have a fail-proof meal plan that you can sustain for the rest of your life, I encourage you to book a diet-free nutrition coaching call with me. 1 hour is all we need to hash out the details and get you the exact next steps you've been looking for. Just head to coachrain.com/dietfree to book your call. Spots are limited and filling up fast. So don't wait on this, okay? That's coachrain.com/dietfree. And I can hardly wait to connect.
I pray this episode was helpful to you, my friend. If so, could you do me a massive favor and take 30 seconds to write a review? This is the best way to bless me big and help more people learn just how simple eating healthy consistently can be. And if you want more value-packed info from me, head to coachrain.com and sign up for the Weekly Harvest, my weekly emails filled with recipes, how to use food as medicine, biblical nutrition, and more. That's coachreign.com for the Weekly Harvest. Blessings until next time, sis. Toodles.